Sis. In today's episode of the Her Best Self podcast, we're talking about how do you know if you're under-eating or overeating or having enough, especially if you've spent years in restriction. Let's dive into today's episode. Hey girl, welcome to the Her Best Self podcast. I'm Lindsay Nickel, former competitive figure skater and perfectionist, turned God-led imperfect boy mom and digital CEO. If you find yourself constantly thinking about food and wondering if you'll wake up one day free from the obsessive thoughts and behaviors controlling your life, then I've created this podcast for you because I know exactly what it's like to be a downright hot mess trapped in a destructive cycle of disordered eating. I finally found freedom, and you can too, girlfriend. So if you're ready to heal your relationship with food and body and break the chains of control and show up in your best health, then grab your favorite Tarjay journal and let's get to it so you can start living your best life as your best self. So today on the show, I'm tackling a question from a listener who wrote into me and said that she's been in recovery for a few months now, but she's been hot and cold with her journey throughout her life and her unhealthy patterns, unhealthy behaviors, and relationship with her eating disorder that she has had for around 12 years of her life. And she said, as I become more aware and intentional with my food and challenging those thoughts and just soaking up all of your podcast episodes, I feel like I'm eating more, but that still feels foreign. And I question whether or not I'm eating enough. And even some days I question whether I'm overeating. How do I know if I need more, if I'm eating enough, or if I'm overeating? Oh my gosh, is this an amazing question to dissect? Because I get this often in my one-on-one coaching with clients. In a nutshell, if you find yourself questioning if you should have another bite or more food, the answer off the top of the show that I'm going to share is a yes. Yes. Trust that when you've eaten enough food, you won't need to ask the question of whether or not you've eaten enough food. Nicole Hobbs says this: I do not want to be remembered as a woman who is always exhausted. I do not want to be remembered as a woman who is always stressed, always busy, always rushing, always holding herself together and pushing through. I would like to be remembered as a relaxed woman, a compassionate woman, a curious, joyful, pleasure-loving woman, a woman who works hard and rests deeply, who loves fiercely and lives peacefully, a woman who knows her worth and her power, who accepts her imperfections and her vulnerabilities, who embraces her limitations and her possibilities, a woman who laughs and cries and aches and loves and is enchanted by the mess and magic and mundaneness of this beautiful, shimmering life. Sis, I had to share this one with you today because I saw this on Pinterest and my heart just burst. This is her best self. This is the best version of who it is that you're becoming. And along this journey, you're going to question things. You're going to have this question of, am I eating enough? Am I not eating enough? But don't let that consume you as you navigate forward. Lean into it. And so today I want to talk about some things that you can do to answer this question of whether or not you've eaten enough. And I still go back to, if you're thinking that thought, then no, you probably haven't had enough. And yes, you can grant yourself permission to have more. But the first step is to start with those non-negotiables. Mine were breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and 2 snacks. That was a minimum every single day. And coming from a place of pure restriction where I wasn't doing that regularly, I was skipping meals, I was avoiding eating, I wasn't snacking, or I would snack 4 meals, like all of these different tactics that we use when we're deep in that disorder. It was hard to define whether or not I was getting in enough, but I knew a non-negotiable for myself meant I had to have every single meal and I had to have 2 snacks every day. And that was just what I aimed for. But the volume of food will definitely feel different for you. And you can find yourself also questioning the quantity. Am I getting in enough? Am I getting in too much? I actually believed in the early phases of my own recovery that I was binging, when in reality, I was just eating more of what I had ever allowed myself to previously. And because I was so super restrictive, it would feel like a binge. I would turn to my pretzels, my carb type snacks, and I would just have more than what I was used to having. And so I felt like I would binge, and then I would feel, okay, well, I'm going to go on to some apples, or I'm going to go on to some yogurt. And that would feel to me like I was binging. But the reality was is I had never given myself permission to have an adequate amount in the first place. It's important to sit with this and get real with reality. Are you eating the whole cabinet? Are you eating half the cabinet? Are you sitting alone going through volumes and volumes of food? That in itself is an eating disorder, and I can surely help you if you are dealing with binge eating disorder. But what I'm talking about is not that type of overeating where you're in this trance of eating one thing after the next, after the next, after the next, and experiencing so much shame. That actually comes from the same root as anorexia or bulimia, right? They're all closely aligned. This unhealthy relationship with food, what you're allowing it to mean over your life, and that you're not good enough or worthy enough. And so you're filling that void either with not allowing yourself to eat or with binging and possibly purging or some sort of overcompensating with exercise or laxatives. But what I want to talk to you about today is not all of the differences between the different types of eating disorders, but I want to talk to you about how sometimes it can feel like you are binging, and in fact, you're not binging. I certainly experienced this in my past where I just realized I was having a lot more than I ever would have allowed myself to have. And so it's getting present and checking in with you. And so in this whole thought process, I realized when I looked around and saw people that were eating around me, they were probably having a roughly around, if not more, than what I was eating at the beginning of my recovery. And so it gave me a measuring stick to have a goal towards, to really go, okay, I feel like I'm overeating, I feel like I'm binging, but in reality, a person's normal lunch would be a sandwich and a bag of chips and an apple. And I'm feeling like that's way too much back to back to back for me personally. So I had to explore that and dive in. So I want you to think about working up to a goal, whatever that looks like for you and where you are right now. Mine at first was I wanted to eat a bagel because bagel was something that I had worked with my therapist on for food exposure and really challenging that fear food. And so I wanted to have a bagel sandwich. It was something that I had made a promise to myself to conquer during recovery, but I had to start small. I talk about walking into the bagel shop and having the bagel, and I did this a couple times, but I worked my way up. So from going to not allowing bagels at all, to having a half of a bagel sandwich, to having 3/4 of a bagel sandwich, to having the entire bagel sandwich, it took some time. And in that, it would feel uncomfortable. It would feel like I was overeating. The reality was, I didn't allow myself permission in the first place prior to recovery. And so when your brain is questioning if you've eaten enough, the answer in my personal experience is no. Part of this is we really have to honor what it is we're holding on to in terms of those false beliefs and that identity, and let go of the good versus bad foods mentality. In recovery, it's so important to lean in to conscious eating. I'm going to do an episode all around conscious eating because I want to dissect what this is, but for purposes of today, I want you to think of this as really becoming knowledgeable and mindful and super aware in the eating experience. So when you're eating, putting your electronics away, putting your work away, sitting with the feelings, the thoughts that come up for you, and even if you're not hungry, granting yourself permission to eat because it's part of that non-negotiable that you've made with you. It's part of that commitment and that promise. When I was around other people, I would observe them eating without judgment, like I had done in the prior days with the illness. And I would look at what they would order and I would order the same, or I would see Oh, that's interesting. And it wasn't from a comparison standpoint. It was to be around people that did not have an unhealthy relationship with food and to look at how they were navigating that experience. Granted, I still knew I needed to do more, right? Because I had so much to make up for lost time for. But for me, it was really identifying, like, when was the last time that I ate something? So trying this on for you, if you feel like I'm not sure if I should have something right now, well, when is the last time you ate something? Has it been over an hour? Then I would consider it a good opportunity to grab a snack or something to eat. Do you have any hunger cues? This was another one for me. I didn't jump right into my experience with honoring my body and have many hunger cues. Probably because I had put off those cues for so long that my body knew not to even probe me with hunger cues because I wasn't going to eat in the past. And so it took a while for me to get those back. But if you have hunger cues, that's your body. That's a great thing. It's your body telling you it's time. It's time to honor. It's time to nourish. And then another thing to really think about is, do I have proof of where I'm challenging a rule? So think about those food rules. An example, right? If I was having dinner and I was at a barbecue and they had buns and they had burgers and they had hot dogs, was I sitting with, oh, I don't know if I'm hungry, or oh, I don't know if I should eat, or I just had something before I came, or was I honoring and allowing myself whatever it is that was there plus the bun? It's getting real and present with that experience. In my illness, I noticed I would eat very rigidly and only certain foods. And in recovery, what I would do to challenge this, to make sure that I was eating enough, is I would have 2 more bites. Have you ever thought about this? Like when your kids are like, Mom, am I done? And you're like, 2 more bites, just take 2 more bites. I actually like to allow my boys to experience intuitive eating and to watch the way that they eat, because they will have meals where they barely touch anything, and then they will have other meals where they want seconds and third helpings. And I find it very important to just allow their little bodies to be. But in my own journey, I would try on this rule of just 2 more bites, because that would give myself permission to have a little bit more than I was used to having. But it also created a safety buffer that I wasn't going to go off the rails. And another thing that I would do that can help you right now, sis, is pair your foods together. I would constantly affirm, this is my body's medicine. And my goal was to be satisfied and to eat a balance of foods. And by doing this with the letting go of the good versus bad foods narrative, I would always have a carb with a protein and a healthy fat. And it was a staple that I would put on almost as like a new rule, as a non-negotiable, so that I was getting well-balanced nutrition and fighting the rule of you can only have this one thing. If I was thinking I should have more, I gave myself permission to have more. And I want to encourage you today to do the same, friend. The reality was I was making up for lost time. Sis, you were making up for lost time, and you are honoring your body. As you step into the best version of you, the number one thing that's going to give you that freedom that your heart desires is to become intentional. I noticed when I was being rigid or when I felt chaotic, and I would purposely honor my mealtime. I would take pleasure in the experience. I would set candles out. Try this. Put a beautiful bouquet of flowers on your table. Go out and buy yourself some flowers and put them on your kitchen table. Sit there, get a fancy dinner plate, or however is going to help you have this experience that is fun and honoring for you. Another way to do this would be to put yourself around people in an environment when you used to isolate, right? Because you were wondering if people were going to judge what you were eating, or you were going to have to force yourself to eat something that you didn't give yourself permission to eat prior. And so what I would do in my own relationship with honoring my body and learning to honor my body was put myself in circumstances around people where I could be super present. And I also had that level of accountability. Right now, if you talk to my kids or you talk to my husband, They know that mom's mealtime is her saving grace. Like, that is my time, right? So once we sit down and we're having dinner, either as a family or sometimes I'm eating with my husband separately, it's important that I honor that experience. And I still do that today. It's being mindful, it's being conscious, it's being present, and allowing your body to soak up all of the good nutrients. I want you to get clear about your eating experience and set those non-negotiables and become super mindful of what comes up for you before, during, and even after your mealtime. Something to help with this is to keep a little food journal. So instead of going and calculating all those calories like you used to do, or counting those macros, I want you to use your journal, use your notebook to get real present in your eating experience. How are you feeling before the meal? Are you feeling anxious? How are you feeling during the meal? Oh, this is actually pretty good. How are you feeling after the meal? I actually don't feel as bad as I thought I would. I feel more energized. I feel like I can now go partake in activities with my family or friends. Having a healthy food relationship, it isn't from a scarcity mindset. And that is the underlying thing here. So when you're asking the question, can I have more? Or how do I know if I'm eating more? Or what if I'm overeating? I want you to ask, is this coming from a place of lack? Or is this coming from a place of abundance? Because if you're sitting there questioning whether or not you should eat more, then give yourself permission, friend, to have more. I hope today's message has given you something to think about when you're stuck wondering if you're eating enough or if you're overeating. The reality is that your body will learn to tell you. But right now it's been tarnished and tainted. And so the very best thing that you can do is to honor your body regularly throughout the day and just sit with yourself. Can you have a couple more bites? Or maybe you typically have one slice of pizza with the family. And if you're questioning, should I have another? Can you have another half? Get very exploratory with this. It's an experiment. It's something to really embrace as you learn this new version of yourself and you step into what it looks like to honor your body. I know that can be foreign, but I promise, one foot in front of the other, day after day, you'll get there. All right, girl, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I would be honored if you went out to Apple Podcast or Spotify or wherever you listen to this podcast and rated and reviewed the show, because that gives us more listeners. In addition, I am taking on a very limited number of one-on-one clients. If you have been in my corner of the internet and you're looking to find freedom from your disorder, I want you to go out to the website, herbestself.co, and fill out a client application. All right, girl, I'll see you real soon. Bye for now. Oh, friend, thank you so much for letting me share what was on my heart today. My hope for this podcast is to help more women find freedom from food and body. If this has empowered or blessed you, let me know. I'd be honored for your rating and review of my show, and I'd love to connect with you in my private Facebook community. You really can move from perfection to purpose. Let's break the chains together. I'll help navigate the way. Until next time, bye for now, girl.